Okay, my article was on new employee orientation. I found an article in HR Magazine called Take New Employee Orientation Off the Back Burner. It discusses how, although 92% of the companies in the country have new hire orientation, many of them are lacking. They don't include key points that are necessary for the success of the company and for the success of the employee. Um, One of the other facts that the first paragraph talked about was that out of that 92%, only 74% of the new hire orientations include a sexual harassment training, which means that those companies are at risk for lawsuits due to sexual harassment and even negligence if they aren't teaching their um, employees about sexual harassment. They could be found negligent for that. The the article says that new hire orientation is extremely important for the relationship between the company and the employee. Just as in in interview, new hires get their first impression of the company during that orientation. If they're stuck in a room doing nothing, watching a video for 4 hours, then it kind of seems like the company doesn't care about the employees that much. Whereas if they're in a room with people, they're discussing things, they're doing team building exercises, they're learning about the history of the company, they might see that the company cares. They care about their employees, they want the employees to learn these things, and they want the employees to be a part of it. Um, Most new employee turnover occurs within the first few weeks of employment, and that can be extremely costly for the company. Every time that a new employee is hired, they are trained, and so you have two people working on the same job while they're being trained, and that money, if the employee leaves after 5 weeks, is completely wasted. So in order for an employee's training to be um, worth something, they have to stay and help the company over a longer period of time. Um, the orientation is also a great way to introduce the cultural values, the goals of the company, and their overall mission statement. The employees can learn what the company looks for, the reason that the company does things the way that they do, and if they're just thrown into a job, they may not understand why a company has a certain level of expectations. So the article also discusses how there should be a change in your orientation if you've got employees that are coming in and they still don't know after orientation some of the basic concepts and some of the basic ideas in the company's about the company, then it might be time to update your orientation. The best way, they said, to find out if new employees are learning anything in their orientation isn't to ask at the end of the orientation for them to fill out a survey, because a lot of the times they'll get what they call flowery answers where, of course, everything's perfect, this was a great orientation, and in reality, you ask them the same questions 2 weeks later, and they might not be able to answer some of the more basic questions, like when should I go on break, or how do I transfer a call. There was one quote in here from a manager at a hotel that said that he called a woman once and asked her to transfer someone 6 months into their job, asked her to transfer a phone call, and she wasn't able to do it because she hadn't learned any of these things at orientation, and she was somehow able to get through 6 months without being able to transfer a call. And at that point, if it had been, a guest, it would have been a big problem for the company. So they say that there's a lot of ways that you can find out if your orientation is working for the employees, and the most beneficial way is just to have a sort of post-test, maybe a week or two later, with some of the basic concepts of the company, and ask the employees to fill that out. And if there's something that all of the new hires did not get, then you should probably update the orientation. They also discuss when you should do your orientation, the timing of your orientations. I know I had a job for Panera, and they did their orientations once a month, and so occasionally there would be people in the class who had already been working for a couple of weeks, and that doesn't really help the employee at all, or the company, because you've got an employee who doesn't know what they're doing for the first 2 weeks of their job. They're just getting paid and possibly just getting in the way. They say that you should try to have an orientation as often as possible before the employee starts. They discuss how Southwest has an orientation every week, and it may be 2 people, it may be 20, but having the orientation weekly helps the company get their point across to everyone before they start working. It also includes some of the more important points that you should get across during your orientation. They say that you should have an overview of the history of the company. They should go over the benefits and all of the handbook, but try and make it interesting, not just reading off the handbook. Do team building exercises where you can work with your partners, the people that you're going to end up working with, and do that. They should also, they should have the sexual harassment training. They need to go over all of that so that they're not at risk for lawsuits. And they should take a tour of the building, whether it's a hotel or even a small, just regular company office building. They need to go over all of the different points of the important places in the building, whether it's just restrooms and entrances and exits. They should be aware of that, also to help protect the company from negligence. If there's fire and these people don't say that they weren't taught where the exits are, the company could be sued. But for hotels and restaurants, it's really important to show the employees the front of house, show them the rooms, let them know what the company they work for looks like to the guests and what's expected of them. It helps to show the new employees what they should be striving to be, because they're going to be able to look at the if they work at the hotel and they look at these rooms and the rooms are beautiful, they know that that's the standard, that everything in that hotel should be kept at. So the overall point of the article was just to take new employee orientation off the back burner. Companies need to make this a major part of their new hire training. Orientations are a great way to teach a new employee about the company, and also to teach a new employee about their expectations. And that's the main point of the article, is just that most companies need to revamp their orientations to better fit the customer or the employees and better fit the company.